Suffragette Girl, written by Margaret Dickinson, read by Nicolette Mckenzie. Chapter 1. Switzerland, September 1932. "How much further is it, Mother?" Florrie glanced at Jacques. He was sitting in the corner of the compartment, huddled into his thick overcoat, white-faced and shivering. His dark blue eyes were pools of weariness in his gaunt face. His black hair was dull and lifeless. When he'd coughed, the only other occupant of the carriage had risen and left, fearful of the deep hacking sound, and suspicious of the way the boy held his handkerchief to his mouth. "Not long now, darling." Florrie put her hand on his arm. "We're just drawing into Landquart, where we have to change trains, and then we'll soon be in Davosplatz." Jacques closed his eyes. "Not another change," he whispered. "We have to. It's a different gauge rail track, and these trains—" Her explanation faded away. She'd sought to interest the boy, but she could see that he couldn't summon up even the pretense of curiosity. Florrie bit her lip. The journey had been a long one, even though they'd broken it into 4 days by staying overnight in London, Paris, and Zurich. But today, the last leg from Zurich to Davos seemed to be taking its toll on the sick boy. Had she been right to bring him? With customary candour, Florrie questioned her own motives. Had her overwhelming desire to have an excuse to see Ernst Hartmann again made her risk the boy's health, perhaps even his life? But no, the Harley Street physician had suggested Switzerland without any prompting from her. "Davos," he'd said, making his swivel chair creak as he'd leaned back in it, rocking it gently. He'd steepled his fingers, regarding her over the top of his spectacles. "That's the place. They're doing wonderful things there. It's become a centre for the treatment of tuberculosis. There are some very clever doctors at the sanatoriums there." She hadn't been able to prevent a gasp of surprise. Of all the places in the world, he'd chosen Davos. "Jacques may be there for weeks, even months," Dr. Harris had warned. "You do realise that, don't you? Your family can afford it, I presume." He knew the family lived at Candlethorpe Hall, surrounded by its vast Lincolnshire estate of hundreds of acres farmed by tenants, whilst Edgar Maltby and his family lived in idle splendour on the rents, untouched as yet by the unstable economy and its hardships. No, Florrie thought, as the train rattled nearer and nearer their destination. She should not feel guilty that their privileged position enabled her to bring Jacques here. But perhaps what she should be feeling guilty about was the excitement that surged through her with every mile that brought her nearer to Ernst Hartmann. As the train drew out of Landquart, Florrie settled Jacques in a corner seat near the window and tucked the travelling rug around his knees. Then she sat down in the opposite seat and looked out of the window, soaking up the sight of the snow-capped mountains with their sharp, pointed peaks. This was Ernst's beloved homeland. The train rattled past steep-sided cliffs, the trees clinging to the bare rock. For a few seconds, she glimpsed a stream, and then the train plunged into a tunnel. As they emerged into the light once more, she saw the river again, its water a strange, opaque, bluey grey. "Why's that river such a funny colour, Mother?" Florrie turned towards him and smiled, relieved to see that he still had the energy to take a little interest in the scenery. "I'm not sure. The only other traveller in the compartment, an elderly bearded gentleman dressed entirely in black and sitting in the corner near the corridor, emerged from behind his newspaper and glanced towards them.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?